up here. So I request a representative from industry. If you are representing PS, we like to recognize you. You come. That is industry. To take us through the session of today. She will be the chairperson of this session. And then thereafter, we'll have a presentation from the chairperson, the sector chairperson. Then we'll have the discussant coming in, and then we'll go into the last session of questions and answers. So allow me to welcome Madam PS to take over from there.
Thank you very much, convener. Our chair, PS, ASALs and Regional Development. In front of you is members of the General Economic and Commercial Affairs Sector Working Group. Today we are here for purposes of public sector hearings, and as a sector, we note that this is a very critical component in the preparation of our sector plan that actually gets to inform our annual budgets. In here, we have representation from the public as well as the respective state departments under this sector. That is the state departments for trade, industry, investment promotion, State Department for ASALs and Regional Development, State Department for Tourism, State Department of East African Community Affairs, State Department of Cooperatives, and the State Department of MSMEs. This engagement is one that allows for the public to listen to what we have in terms of our proposition, and allow them to also engage us as a sector so that they help to strengthen our plans and make it more robust so that as we go into the budget making process and preparing our annual budget, our budget is actually responsive to the people of Kenya. So with that, I would request our chair to therefore take the stage and make his presentation.
Kama mimi nasoma budget. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. My name is Kelo Harsama, the Principal Secretary in the State Department of ASAL and Regional Development. I'm also the chairman of this forum called GECA. Welcome to this presentation on the General Economic and Commercial Affairs Sector Medium-Term Expenditure Framework for 2026-27, financial year 2028-29, which I'm now presenting. The presentation is outlined in this way. I'll deal with the sector composition. What is the composition of the GECA forum, or the GECA sector mandate, vision, mission, and strategic goals. Which form the GECA sector. The financial year 22-23, 24-25 performance review and various achievements, analysis of recurrent and development, approved budget versus actual expenditures, the sector programs and medium-term priorities for financial year 26-27 to 28-29, analysis of sector resource requirements versus allocations for financial year 2026-27 to 2028 to 2029. And again, finally, the challenges, emerging issues, conclusion, and recommendations. It's going to be a very interesting presentation. Ladies and gentlemen, for us to talk about GECA, we need to understand which organizations, which state departments form GECA. One is my own state department of ASAL and Regional Development, the Cooperatives Department, Trade, Industry, Micro and Small Medium Enterprises, Investment Promotion, Tourism, and the East African Community State Department. What are the mandates of this sector, this GECA sector? This is actually a general sector mandate. Is coordinate and accelerate integrated development in the ASALs, for me. Promote growth and development of cooperatives through capacity building and provision of appropriate policy and legal and institutional framework. Promote and develops domestic and international trade, as well as enforcing fair trade practices and consumer protection. Facilitates and accelerated growth of the industrial sector through provision of an enabling institutional policy and a legal framework. Also promotes and develops MSME sector through development and promotion of progressive credit policies and practices. Formulates and implements policies to promote, attract, develop, and attain both domestic investments and foreign direct investments. Formulates policy and coordinate implementation of strategies aimed at developing sustainable tourism, and coordinates Kenya's participation in the East African regional integration process, and monitor and evaluate the implementation of the Northern Corridor Department. And what is the vision and the mission of this GECA sector? Is a prosperous and vision is, the vision is a prosperous and globally competitive economy, fostering innovation, sustainable growth, and inclusive social and economic development. Mission, to promote economic transformation through implementing integrated socio-economic policies and programs for rapidly industrializing economy. And further, what are the strategic goals of this GECA sector? Is to enhance economic productivity in arid and semi-arid lands, promote and maintain vibrant, sustainable cooperative sector, promote domestic production and expand market access for Kenyan exports, create an enabling environment for sustainable development and management of MSMEs, promote sustainable manufacturing and industrial enterprises, promote foreign and domestic investments by improving the business environment, project, promote, and market Kenya as a premier sustainable tourism destination. Strengthen regional integration for optimization of benefits and opportunities within East Africa and the Northern Corridor. Within the GECA sector, we have various autonomous and semi-autonomous government agencies, which is, I feel, is important. for us to name, to understand, for you to broadly understand the GECA composition. The GECA, the sector has 4 autonomous and 38 semi-autonomous government agencies. This includes the East African Portland Cement Factory, the Kenya Development Corporation, KDC, the Kenya Bureau of Standards, the Kenya Industrial Property Institute, KIPI, semi-autonomous government agencies, Anti-Counterfeit Authority, the Coast Development Authority, Bomas of Kenya, the Wasonyiro North River Basin Development Authority, the Wasonyiro South River Basin Development Authority, Export Processing Zones Authority, the Financial Inclusion Fund, the Hustler Fund, the Kenya Investment Authority, the Kenya Tourism Board, KICC, where we are now, the Kenya Industrial Estates, the Kerio Valley Development Authority, Kenya National Accreditation Services, the Kenya Industrial Research and Development Institute, Kenya Export Promotion and Branding Agency, Kenya National Trading Corporation, the Kenya National Multi-Commodities Exchange, the Kenya Trade Remedies Agency, Kenya Safari Lodges and Hotels, Kenya Consumer Promotion Advisory Committee, Lake Basin Development Authority, Micro and Small Enterprise Authority, National Drought Management Authority, autonomous and semi-autonomous government agencies continued, the Kenya Cooperative Creameries, the new Kenya Planters Cooperative Union, the Numerical Machining Complex, Rivertex Special Economic Zones Authority, SACCOS, Society Regulatory Authority, Scrap Metal Council, Tourism Research Institute, Tourism Regulatory Authority, Tourism Fund, Tourism Promotion Fund, Tana and Adi Rivers Development Authority, TARDA, Uwezo Fund, Warehouse Receipt System, Kenya Utalii College. Those are the autonomous and semi-autonomous agencies contained in the GECA sector. During the 2022-23 to 24-25 performance, when we assumed office as an administration, we have a number of key achievements which we undertook, which I'm going to outline very quickly. During the period under review, financial year 22-23, 24-25, the sector realized the following achievements. The first one, the sector completed the expansion and upgrading capacity at the Wasonyiro Leather and Tannery Factory, processing 1.128696 million square feet of finished leather. Automated the mango processing plant at Total Geo Marakwet and processed 112,789 liters of mango juice. Conserved and rehabilitated 1,555 hectares of degraded catchment and riparian lands and put 1,104 of land under irrigation. Constructed 21 water pans, 5 small dams and drilled 103 boreholes, benefiting over 43,000 livestock and 2,303 households. SACCO membership in the State Department of Cooperatives. SACCO memberships in SASRA regulated SACCOs grow to 7.4 million, thus enhancing financial inclusion. Total savings within cooperatives grew from 1,047 billion to Kenya shillings 1.224 billion. SACCOs membership grew from 6.4 million to 7.4 million and remained stable within core capital to total asset ratio of SACCOs remaining above 10% requirement. Coffee Cherry Advanced Revolving Fund extended advance of Kenya shillings 522 million in financial year 2022-2023 to 4.8 billion in financial year 2020-25 covering 240,000 farmers across 33 coffee-growing counties. Secured vital market access through the Kenya-European Union Economic Partnership Agreement worth 18 trillion euros in the European export market of 450 million consumers. And the Kenya-United Arab Emirates Comprehensive Economic Partnership Agreement in the UAE market valued at approximately 500 billion US dollars and a population of 11.35 million. Another major achievement, the total value of exports managed by the State Department of Trade grew by 10.4% from Kenya shillings 1,007.9 billion in 2023 to 1.112.3 billion in 2024. The value of wholesale and retail trade increased by 3.38% from Kenya shillings 841 million and 17 billion in 2023 to Kenya shillings 873.3 billion in 2024. The sector managed to advance the construction of 21 county aggregation and industrial parks, popularly known as the CAIPs, and 923 jobs created under county aggregation and industrial parks project. As a sector, we were also able to modernize the Rivertex machinery, which deals with the textile. We also registered 2,290 patents and industrial designs, underscoring a growing culture of innovation. We were also able to train 13,101 students and SMEs in industrial and entrepreneurial skills. We also implemented Buy Kenya, Build Kenya strategy, leading to increased uptake of locally produced goods in public procurement. A total of 2,419 new standards developed in the State Department of Industry. A total of 57,830 products were certified under a large farm. A total of 2,290 patents, utility models, and industrial designs were registered. A total of 19,411 trademarks were registered. A total of 25,055 inspections for brand protections were undertaken. A total of 540 IPRs recorded. A total of 126 MSMEs received disbursement for productivity and innovation upgrade. A total of 351 industrial technologies were developed and transferred to industry. Quite a number of achievements here, which we are really proud of. Provided affordable credit to MSMEs through several initiatives, including Financial Inclusion Fund of Kenya shilling 72 billion through personal loan product, and Kenya shilling 196.6 million through the group loan product to 58,698 groups. The Kenya Industrial Estates, KIE, Kenya shilling 4.86 billion industrial credit, Uwezo Fund 1,136 million to 10,515 groups of youth, women, PWDs, and startup grants of Kenya shillings 509 million disbursed to MSES. The provision of infrastructure. The sector managed to equip 58 constituency industrial development centers to support the priority value chains, leather industry, leather, dairy, edible oils, and construction, and completed construction and equipping of 3 cold storage facilities, in particular Nyandarua, Kisii, and Meru. We were also able to provide market linkages for 3,762 SMEs through local and regional trade fairs and 27,721 SMEs through subcontracting arrangements, and linked 419 MSCs to the affordable housing program, gazetted 25 special economic zones and 20 export processing zones that contributed to creation of 62,304 jobs. We also attracted 303,798 billion. This is almost 3.7 trillion in domestic investment and 1.5 million USD billion in foreign direct investment. We were also able to license 92 enterprises under export processing zone, that is EPZA, and the Special Economic Zones Authority, ZESA. The international visitor arrivals increased from 1.6 million in financial year 2022-23 to 2.42 million in financial year 24-25, thereby growing earnings from Kenya shillings 297.3 billion to Kenya shillings 458.2 billion, almost double. And this bolstered by aggressive marketing and the implementation of the electronic travel authorization ETA. Domestic bed nights increased by 10.8% from Kenya shillings 4.52 million in financial year 2022-23 to 5.01 million in financial year 2024-25. Revenue generated from tourism levy increased from Kenya shillings 3.9 billion in financial year 2022-23 to 5.1 billion in financial year 2024-25. Meetings, incentives, conferences, and events, number of local and international delegates increased from 638,478, the previous comparative year, to 736,874 guests or delegates. Local conferences hosted increased from 10,558 to 12,224 respectively from the financial year 2022-23 to financial year 24-25. We are also able to assess and accredit 991 establishments, largely of hotels and lodges. Developed EAC regional policies, the East African Community regional policies, guidelines, regulations, and regulations in the various areas of cooperation. The sector was also able to coordinate over 1,000 MSMEs in the East African Community annual trade fairs. The last one we had just slightly a week ago at here at Uhuru Gardens. Over 2,000 youth, women, and people living with disabilities built on EAC of simplified trade regime. And now I go to cover an analysis of recurrent approved budget versus actual expenditure amount of Kenya shillings in millions for financial year 2022, 2023, 24, 25. Basically, I'm going to cover it later to find out how expenditures increased and also the level of absorption, which is very important at this rate. If you look at this table, all of you can see approved budget allocations have been increasing. Apart from 24-25, we have 2022-23, see 29.790 in millions. That is 29 billion, I think. 2023-24, 52 billion. 2024, 25, 43 billion slightly, and you understand why we had some commotions that time, isn't it? And that is why Kenyans must keep peace all the time for us to ensure that our economy grow. We respect the government in power and ensure that our economy grows very quickly, because the economy will not grow in a situation which is not harmonious. And you can see how subsequently we have spent this money, not very bad.
that so that we are able to remain consistent in terms of harnessing this global space in terms of attracting tourists in our country. On regional integration, so that we are able to remain consistent in terms of harnessing this global, there is quite a good global space in terms of attracting tourists in our country. On regional integration, so that we are able to remain consistent in terms of harnessing this global, there is quite a good global space in terms of attracting tourists in our country. On regional integration, so that we are able to remain consistent in terms of harnessing this global, there is quite a good global space in terms of attracting tourists in our country. On regional integration, so that we are able to remain consistent in terms of harnessing this global, there is quite a good global space in terms of attracting tourists in our country. On regional integration, so that we are able to remain consistent in terms of harnessing this global, there is quite a good global space in terms of attracting tourists in our country. On regional integration, so that we are able to remain consistent in terms of harnessing this global, there is quite a good global space in terms of attracting tourists in our country. On regional integration, so that we are able to remain consistent in terms of harnessing this global, there is quite a good global space in terms of attracting tourists in our country. On regional integration, so that we are able to remain consistent in terms of harnessing this global, there is quite a good global space in terms of attracting tourists in our country. On regional integration, so that we are able to remain consistent in terms of harnessing this global, there is quite a good global space in terms of attracting tourists in our country. On regional integration, so that we are able to remain consistent in terms of harnessing this global, there is quite a good global space in terms of attracting tourists in our country. On regional integration, so that we are able to remain consistent in terms of harnessing this global, there is quite a good global space in terms of attracting tourists in our country. On regional integration, so that we are able to remain consistent in terms of harnessing this global, there is
When it comes to our cooperatives, business was very well exemplified, both from an investment. When it comes to our business was very well.
what I've understood, I have a concern in the area of Asal. And in the Asal area, where I've also worked, there's a issue of water problem every year. But when I look at it, the budget for Asal is always concerning the putting up of dams, boreholes, every year. I remember one time the budget for Asal is always shared with the directorate of the putting up of dams, drought management. The Asal management have never come up with an alternative that might reduce the budget, and that money can go for another thing within that region. The Asal management have never come up with what I shared with the director, what we call the underground dam. When you put up an underground dam, that water might stay up to another year when the rain comes. But the open dam, it will dry within 6 months. So, to the Asal area, have you ever come with a new alternative so that that money which you do use every year for putting up dams is used for another thing to support the Asal area? Another thing within the Asal region, we should not call it always Asal. We can transform the Asal region to be a productive land. Have you ever thought of also coming up with what we call artificial forest so that the Asal region can again produce rainfall? That's my question to you. That's the side of Asal. Then I go back now to trade. Madam, you're there. In the trade area, I've heard from the statement there, you are facilitating trade, regional trade, promoting SMEs. My concern is, when you look at the market, we find the counterfeiters flooding the market. Now the locally manufactured and the imported, the genuine imported products, they have no market because the counterfeits are cheap. So my concern, what measures have you put up so that our manufacturers, they don't lose the market? Thank you very much.
Good afternoon. I'm Amina Osman from Isiolo, representing the FCDC, Frontier County Development Council, and Dry Capacity Building Initiative, that is the DLCA. Mine is just a concern. The Asals and region development subsectors has a very big variance between requirement and allocation for both recurrent and development allocation are very low compared to the resources required and mandate it carries, especially the RDA's. Recurrent budget is low compared to the requirement, and for example, is able to even pay staff salary. The development allocation is cash, Kenyan shillings 89 million to EDA is a very little for authorities covering 10 counties. The authorities are doing a lot of work and are very visible on the ground. However, these funding challenges are affecting the ability to deliver service to wananchi. We wish to request you consider additional budget. Thank you.
You know, I used to be an activist in my other life, so I have to make sure there is fairness.
Thank you. My name is Arole Nicholas Louis, representing Youth for Change Advocates, West Pokot County. Arole Nicholas Louis. West Pokot County. I rise on a very important factor, Arole Nicholas. I know all of us, Louis. When we hear about West Pokot, all that comes to our mind is probably guns and death. And we have a very important factor. Government, I know all of us, government, or let's say, a very important government agency by the name Takwel Gorge Dam. And within Takwel Gorge Dam, we've lost not less than 30 people this particular year. And in terms of generation of energy, Takwel Gorge is serving this country to, an unimaginable level. But then the question is, the same Takwel Gorge is where Kenyans are losing a lot of people. As an agency, you've spoken so much about integrating East Africa and connecting ourselves with the world. Why don't we use part of the money being generated in Takwel Gorge to integrate Turkana and Pokot? For how long are kids going to be killed? They don't go to school, women die, and government are generating a lot of money from that particular area. Is it that we are not aware of this? Or is it part of the business to continue to leave people continue dying so that you can generate more? So that is one. Find a framework of ensuring that Takwel Gorge Dam serves the purpose of peace, education, and eradication of poverty within Takwel area. Number two is also on, this is on MSME, and talking about the vocal loan requirements. I was checking on the requirements of application, and it actually says that an applicant must provide a security, a collateral for that particular matter. And of course, if these are government loans that are supposed to offer relief to youths, particularly people who are fresh from universities or people who never met to go to the university, to what extent do we expect that these people have collateral or property enough to cover for their loans? So I think we need to come up probably with other measures that we can ensure that the youth can access this government funding without necessarily, making it almost impossible for them to access. Thank you.
I hope that's the last one, so that we make our responses. Or you? Okay, please.
Good afternoon. My name is Masireri. I work for Kenya Transporters Association. My concern is under the Ministry of Trade and Investment. And you've talked largely about the Northern Corridor quite comprehensively and the ease of doing business. As transporters, of course, we've been through the process and we've seen the gains and we are happy. Of course, more should be done and can be done. There's a particular concern that we have about way bridges, but not way bridges per se, but under weights and measures. So the way bridges have to be calibrated every 3 months, provided by the law, and the users of them, it's us. You've talked heavily about how exports have grown and all that, but we do have a concern that, how well funded is the Department of Weights and Measures? Remember, we are a transit country as Kenya, and we serve all the other East African countries. But if we continue to get doubts on our calibration, then we look at the weights and measures under the Ministry of Trade and Industry. Now, what we've realized through our interactions is that there's an urgent need for them to automate their services. Now, if you look at Kenha, they have fully automated. They are the consumers of the services, but the providers of the service have not automated. Now, as a transporter, if I am asked by an importer who is in Congo, by law, they're supposed to display that they calibrated the way bridges on this day. It's supposed to be public information. Now, if somebody disputes a weight, and this importer is somewhere in Congo, how do I prove? Do I tell the person, by the way, you just come from Congo and come and check, right? But then if you automate, what you do, you boost the confidence of even the importers, which is it's something very easy. Now I can say as a transporter, I use the weighbridge, and according to weights and measures, it was calibrated on this day. So if you are disputing, then you need to come up with other ways too. And what you'll do to us is, the tangles that are between us of trying to explain, we don't do calibration and all this, it just ends. So my request to you is, would you kindly help the Department of Weights and Measures to automate their services? Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think this has really been an engaging session. Unfortunately, we look like we are cutting the conversations short, but I'll ask before I sum up everything for my chair to give responses.
I think, yeah. Some of them markets and zingine. Some of the questions will be answered by my colleagues here. I will answer a few of them. One on the issue of ASAL, actually, disparities in budget allocations. We have written to Treasury to help us manage that deficit. We know as a country we are facing problems of revenue generation. All of us in government rely on how best or how sufficient the Kenya Revenue Authority collects taxes, collect revenue from people. And this revenue is the one which is allocated to different state departments. And therefore, we have asked the Treasury to give us more funds so that we are able to do more projects, more water projects, both dams, boreholes, and others, with a view to mitigate against the problems of climate change. We have also asked Treasury to boost our funds for recurrent expenditure with regard to what the lady has asked from Isiolo, the Wasonyiro North Authority, and others, so that they are able to support their recurrent expenditures. So we are going to get very positive feedback from Treasury soon in the coming supplementary budget. We have made our proposals. I think I've answered that. With regard to the Pokot-Turkana issue, we are on it. The State Department of ASAL is going to implement a peace program on the border of Pokot and Turkana. I'm aware of the current conflict which is going on between the two communities. I served as an officer there in the year 2005 to 2006 in a place called Alale when I was working in the Interior Ministry. So I'm aware of the dynamics of security there. We are going to see how best we can implement projects which foster peace and harmony in the whole of that region. Again, we have the issue of counterfeits will be answered by my colleague here and others. I think you can answer the rest. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I want to again appreciate our stakeholders for really bringing out some very good insights that will help us work on making our budget more people-friendly. I think for Mark, we acknowledged the asks around strengthening those areas within our subsectors that can push financial literacy and money-making programs for communities as well as talent. So those are some things we can add into our budgets as we work. For Joshua, thank you for bringing out the point that our budget is gender blind and that we really need to make sure we bring out that gender aspect so that it actually brings out the value behind our responsiveness in terms of gender. We also will go back and look at the way we have set out our analysis for our recurrent and development budgets, looking at the trend in particular and making sure we are putting figures that are not out of this world, so that even when we present, there are figures that somebody says some rigor has gone into it and is well thought through. There was a question on the capping of interest rates, and you gave us a very good solution. So we will work on that together with ensuring that our empowerment works towards ensuring people understand what standards are set, both for trading locally and internationally. Walter, we appreciate your proposition on the new thinking around water management. So if we could also get more insights around this underground dam that you were talking about, what it costs, so that we put it in our budgets as some of the key things that will actually transform the way we manage our water in the ASAL's region. So we really welcome that very much. Nicholas, on the Youth for Change, thank you very much for bringing in the point on security, peace, and what it means in budget-making processes. And my colleague has really explained what we are going to do. So as we go back to look at our budget, these are some of the pointers that we put into account to actually put up a compelling case for us as a sector when we are looking for more resources. Amina, I think your points were spot on. If we could even borrow word for word so that we add to our case as we put our budget forward, we would really appreciate that. The issue of counterfeit, yes, this is something we are taking into account. We already have a committee that is looking into that. But again, we want to take it within the context of understanding what it does to our locally produced goods and our manufacturing sector. As we go into putting our data on what this means for budget, we actually take that as some of the pointers to put our compelling case around. Our last speaker who talked about weights and measures and the issue of automation, I agree with you 100%, and thank you for bringing that to the fore. So I think that is another pointer that we take as the State Department for Trade to actually put the case of automation. And it is really embarrassing that when the gadget itself is not automated, but other parts of it are automated, then it doesn't make any economic sense. So with that, ladies and gentlemen, I think this has really been a good session. I believe we have tried to engage, but this doesn't stop here.
Maybe something on Tarquin about the gentleman. Sorry. Finally, the gentleman who asked something on Tarquin. We, as ASAL also, we are planning to utilize that water. The lake, the Tarquin lake, which is there, is like a big ocean, which is just sitting idle. And we are planning to use that water for irrigation, to open up irrigation schemes on the border of Turkana and Pokot, so that these warriors who have been stealing livestock and killing people will be kept busy on the farms, so that they are going to enjoy farming and desist from rustling livestock and also killing people. Asante.
Thank you very much, Chair. I think this has really been a good session, and it is my prayer that this sector will keep engaging with our stakeholders beyond budget-making processes, so that when we come to the next iteration of budgets, we already understand what our stakeholders are asking from us, and we are able to communicate the same to Treasury. Before we conclude, the children had a memorandum that is it a memorandum of understanding or just a memorandum? A communique that they would want to present to the chair of the sector. So our children, your time starts now.
Thank you. It's a memorandum and it mostly highlights the issues on children, navigating around the general economic sector, and it comes with a page of so many recommendations from children. And we are children, like, representing all the other children. So is it okay if we could present it?
You can present it to the chair. And do you want backup? So you want the children to come and back you up? Can the children please come and back your leader so the chair can go down to receive it? And please hold us to account. Once you give us the memorandum, it is our prayer that we will do what needs to be done from it. Feedback. So there's a question on how will the children get their feedback. You have a mother in me, you have a father in the chair, and you have a brother in the convener. So you will get the contacts of the sector convener to give you the responses. Sign over. Well, thank you. I think confirmation has been done around receiving. The chair has been able to give the contacts for ensuring that feedback is given to the children. And I think this is one of those things that we are saying we are leaving no one behind when it comes to the GECA sector. We are inclusive and we take care of each and every member. With that, I want to thank you all. Let us continue engaging as stakeholders and pushing the agenda for resource mobilization for the sector, so that, because this is actually the engine of growth going forward for this economy. Thank you and God bless you all.